I think we're live. It says we're live.
Perfect. Welcome to week 8, everyone, and we are in Germany. We've lost a soldier, but that was more because of me. So I am happy to be here. And I just realized today, I mentioned to the group, is Europe Day. Clearly, I'm going to do more research about that, but I'm happy to be here on Europe Day in Europe mentally, since I'm still in New York, in quarantine, and not back at my home in Portugal. So I'll be the host. My name is Cha McCoy. I am a sommelier from New York City, living in Portugal. As I mentioned, not right now, but I do work in events globally. One of the events that I've given is called the Communion, which has been featured in 5 different cities, or I should say 5 different countries so far. And now I'm going to pass it over to Autumn here in New York as well with me. Hi, Autumn.
Hi, my name's Autumn Stanford, and I have a natural wine bar in Brooklyn, New York.
Thanks for joining us, Autumn. Okay, Nicole.
Yes, hi. So I'm from Potsdam, so near Berlin, from Germany. And like I said, my name is Nicole Wolbers. I'm wine academic, and I'm doing wine education and wine writing. And since 1.5 years, I have a wine blog specializing in sparkling wine. So I'm looking forward today.
I'm interested about, you said, what's a wine block?
It's a writing block, you know.
Oh, blog. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we in Germany.
I heard wine block.
So,
I'm like, you know what? I want a wine block of sparkling wine. Like, how do I get that? You know?
No, it's an online, homepage website where I'm writing about sparkling wines, especially
Great.
from Germany. So.
Oh, awesome. Paul?
Hi, everyone. My name is Paul Knittel. I work in Berlin for Viniculture, which is a natural wine importer, distributor, and retailer.
And eventually, we'll probably have a 5th person join in. But for now, we'll start right now, jumping right into some questions. And if you don't know how the program goes already, and this is your first time joining, United We Taste is started with the idea of now Philippe and I actually learning about wine virtually with each other. And so then I said, let's join in the community who can give us some more insight on the grounds. And we actually started learning with Rioja Wine Academy. And then we decided to actually start with Italy, because at that time during COVID-19, there was an increase in infections there. And so the first week is with Italy. And we wanted to drink in solidarity with our peers and friends who are also in the wine profession, and actually have a moment of solidarity with them. So we made it to week 8. And now it's funny because I'm sure we didn't think there'll be 8 weeks of this when we first started. It was just a matter of how to keep the community going. And for those who wanted to learn more from those in the community and out in the field, so out in Germany for this week, they can actually join in and chat with us. So thank you for those who will be joining with us live. And if you're watching this as a recap video, please still send your questions over. And if you have any questions for any of the guests, their information is on the website, chamccoy.com/the Cha list, and you can see the Germany episode. So German wines, it's so funny is because I didn't think it was, maybe because I haven't studied, I haven't sit down in like a studying session in over, I want to say a year or so and a half, thank God. I think once you do it for like 2 years straight, you're like, I'm not studying for another damn thing. And I've been doing more like in the field work and just like learning about Portugal from living in Lisbon. But I think that when I actually realized this week was Germany, I was like, so yeah, Riesling and what else? Like, what am I excited to talk about with Germany? And I realized there's so much stuff that I did love about German wines. And if you already saw from my glass, like reds from Germany and even Austria as well. And I think that made me more excited to talk about Germany. And I just knew people were going to be so excited to join in this with me. and it was very difficult.
I can imagine, you know, it's always for us difficult. Germany, there's so much going on, and every region is kind of progressing. It's amazing.
I kind of figured that if you're doing Portugal and learning about Portugal and all those wine varieties there, then everything else afterwards should have been easy.
No, but you know what's so funny is that because now, I mean, just like my Portuguese one, if I didn't live in Portugal and didn't have as many people in my community in Portugal, if you see the Portugal episode, it's 7 people in that episode, and we probably could have had 15 easily, just because Felipe is from there and I live there, so we could have just had everybody in there, just like a big group, just talking. But again, that was the longest episode that lasted 2.5 hours. So we definitely, I was like, we got to go eventually, and I feel like if it wasn't for me living there, it probably would have been a small amount of people as well. If I said, oh, let me just put together a Portuguese episode, and I've never, you know, didn't have the connections that I have right now. And so it's interesting. I feel like, wow, Germany is like Portugal, where there's not enough people who know the information. And I mean, in this states, and where I could say, where everybody I reached out to, they either were going to talk about a Riesling, because it's always like, I feel like the safe answer, like just talk about Riesling, right? And I felt like a lot of people were nervous. They were like, ooh, Germany? No, call me for another episode. And so I said, oh my God, I didn't realize German wines need a lot of love. And I looked up, of course, but most people watching this, whether you're in the industry or not, you may know that beer is king in Germany, right? So we can't deny that fact. So at the same time, there is something where I understand people want German beer. If this was a German beer episode, maybe way more people I can get involved who'll be excited to talk about it. But I'm interested in hearing from Autumn's perspective, you all both being in Germany, just kind of understanding for what beer being king even within the country, and then obviously with Autumn being here in New York. Is there any reason why you think, even on a, you could talk about professional level or even for the consumer, why is German wines don't have that attraction? And we could say outside of Riesling. I mean, I think people think of Riesling and they want German Riesling, but outside of Riesling, what is it? What do Germany have to do? Why is no one like, yeah, I can't wait to have this nice German, whatever, you know, Pinot Gris, whatever they're gonna have.
Oh, if I start, Paul, so the first thing, I think that we have so many different regions, and within the region, it's the broad variety of styles. And what I came across living in the US was that there's a picture of German wines being still sweet, even, you know, after 20 years, that Riesling should be sweet, or is sweet when it's from Germany. And I think we never have really understood to promote that we have so a diverse range of, let's stick with Riesling, that it can be so different. You know, it can be dry, it can be mineral, or it can be this extremely outstanding sweet ones, but those are not really for binge drinking or whatever. So I think we missed a little bit to marketing that. And now it's difficult. You know, the German Wine Institute does quite a lot, but still it doesn't really get outside the borders. And we Germans love to drink a lot of wine inside too. So I think that could be maybe one thing.
You said 2 things that I thought was important. I'm gonna take notes of. You said marketing, which I thought was important, as well as you just said about Germans don't like drink wine outside. They drink more wine inside the house.
We drink a lot, you know, many wineries really sell from door. So they are, and we have the problem, we have so many small wineries selling really, you know, the almost 80% of the wines within Germany, or at the front door really. So we don't have those really big brands with, you know, yeah, there are a couple of like Ernie Loren, or, you know, who's famous in the US as well. So, but I think we're really kind of small in the total, you know, that's makes it difficult to promote.
Yeah, and it also feels like,
oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, it feels like the marketing that's been going on by the German Wine Institute, they're doing a lot, but if you look at the marketing, it's horrible. It's horrible, really.
Question mark.
Yeah. I don't know. I think a lot of there has been more attention for certain things from Germany, like Pinot Noir, for example.
Yeah.
People start to talk about it a little bit more, but always just as sort of a good value kind of option.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, value.
And I don't know, historically, we just when we really were exporting a lot of shitty wine. And it's hard to get that out of people's heads.
Yes.
So now we're still sort of that country that exports shitty wines and rather cheap wines. Best we can do is sort of good value wines. And then we have these crazy expensive sweet wines that nobody really understands why they're so expensive, and they won't buy them at those prices outside of Germany. I don't know.
I think you tapped on a lot. I'm going to hold there so Autumn could jump in too on this. From your perspective, being in New York, owning a wine bar, I know you have German wines on the list. Are they the ones that move faster? What's not? What do you see even maybe outside? Why do you not have more German wines on your list? I guess I would like to hear from your perspective as well.
Sure. I mean, I think that being, I don't have a huge traditional wine background. So most of what I know about wine has been in the natural wine realm. And so when you take out a lot of those sort of rules and ideas of this is where they grow the perfect, Pinot Noir are each great. It really opened up Germany to me, because the first time I had German Pinot Noir, I was really impressed. And so that was the first time that I said, okay, let me start looking at German wines. And luckily with natural importers and distributors, I think that they are going and finding these really small producers. And so that's when I first started tasting German wine, was in sort of the natural realm.
I think that, but do you have customers coming in and going, ooh, German wine? Are they excited? I mean, I understand that we're talking about wine lovers who are coming to a wine bar knowing that it's already natural, organic, focus, but are they, out of all the other countries that you obviously have on your list, are they excited about the German one specifically more than Italy or France or et cetera? I guess I'm interested to hear how it compares.
I mean, it really depends on the customer. But we definitely get people who see, we have a few, so I don't want to give too much information away, but they'll see, a producer on our list, and immediately that's the bottle that they're going to get.
Okay. So it's this kind of like rock star producers that people are, or trendy producers that are in the natural wine Germany realm, that are actually ones that people are seeking out. That I'm assuming I experienced that too, but I just want to hear it from you. Are you also agreeing that that's why they picked those particular wineries, or they probably don't even know it's from Germany? There's no, that's the guy they know, and they knew they love his wine, and so they want his wine.
Yeah, and I think that there's certain varietals that they're like, oh, if this varietal is from Germany and I like that varietal, then I'm just automatically definitely going to buy that bottle.
Okay, understood. And it's funny, so now I want to go back to Paul and Nicole's comment about marketing, questionable marketing with the association. Don't worry, this is not going to be a bash on them. This is more about if what Autumn is saying, that the connection from her customers are, and I know, Paul, you're in the natural wine industry with the importer as well. So if the marketing, how good is the marketing for the German organization to actually tell people to drink our natural wines? Like, I guess if the natural wines is moving a little bit more faster for Germany, are they tapping into the idea that the natural wines is really what's probably pushing it? Is the new trend within your country that outsiders are looking for? Maybe that could help. I mean, would you agree to that? To focus maybe a section on the natural wine instead of just saying, drink all Truck and Bar and Beerhausen. I was going to try to get it in this session. I was going to do it, but yeah. So we saw that before they start trying to get people to learn about that, what I just said, and of course you all can correct me, but do you think that it's better that they try to kind of tap into that market? Because it seems like, from what Autumn said, and to be honest, from what I see as well, more people who are in the natural wine industry or focus, they're the ones who are having more German wines on the list.
Mm-hmm. maybe Paul, it's your.
Sure. Well, there is no kind of centralized marketing for German natural wine that I really know of.
No.
So I think the popularity of certain producers from that realm in Germany is more due to a lot of work on social media, them beating like a lot of people to the punch when it came to sort of going online and connecting directly to people. It sort of, they were part of that hype when that started, and it got picked up. And it's just always very small production. Things tend to get scarce. But I don't know. I guess a lot of producers, there are more and more producers starting to work this way. More and more are turning organic or biodynamic. Not all of the wines that are being made are great, and not everybody that is turning natural is automatically being sold. I think it's sort of this mix between people getting higher qualities in that realm and sort of starting to do better individual marketing on social media and stuff that actually gets them noticed, word of mouth, certain fairs. Weird how things move in that scene sometimes.
I can just add that I see from the regular winery, so that it's still a small niche with organic and natural wine within Germany, but it's slowly getting a little bit popular because, you know, I'm coming across the wineries and now they're offering a pet nut, for example, or one orange wine. So they're kind of trying to sneak into this kind of market, but I think it still have much more potential, or it's not really organized. So I wonder a little bit why it picks up in, you know, New York, for example, so much.
Which other varieties that when you said they see that varietal and that it's from Germany, they sort of go for it? Is it Riesling and Pinot, or is there something else? Or
yeah, I mean, for us, it's just Riesling and Pinot. There's still so much for me to learn about German wine. I would love to taste a bunch of stuff and be able to add more interesting or less well-known varietals.
But yeah, I'd be curious also. I mean, you said you don't want to give away too much because sort of one of your wines is the one you brought. But I'm definitely curious to hear what kind of producers are popular in the States, because I really don't know much about sort of the perception of these wines in the US.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess later.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because it's still a difficult topic here, you know, especially if producers try to go a very unique taste profile. That some come really along that, whoa, what is that? So, you know, the traditional wine profession is a little bit confused about all the aromas and flavors, what's going on. So you have to train your brain, especially, you know, that you really can taste them. Don't think, oh, they're kind of off and they have maybe some faulty flavors, whatever. So, and that's why the normal producers make really straightforward orange wine, you know, it's really easy approachable. So that's interesting then to see.
Thank you for letting it keep going. I was like, I disappeared, but I'm back, don't worry. Next question I have is more about Gewürztraminer. So it's funny is because I feel like Gewürztraminer was one of those grapes that when I was first introduced to wine, and I'm used to having sweet wine and Moscato, whatever, in order to be an introductory. Who knows? Maybe it's Pinot Grigio, but someone made it sweet, you know. But then I end up kind of slowly loving Chenin Blanc because they come as off dry, and then Gewürztraminer and I think maybe that's a good evolution in that case, because I still want to believe it's sweet. And sometimes it probably was dry, but it had so much fruit on it that I didn't even know I was drinking something that was probably closer to dry. And so You know, it's funny, I don't really mention that, but when I was getting prepared for this episode, it did make me think about Gewürztraminer. And I guess I was interested on is there love for Gewürztraminer? Do we hate it? I don't know the last time I had one, to be honest. You know, what can we do to help Gewürztraminer? You know? I feel like Gewürztraminer is one of those grapes that even when I didn't know how to say it correctly, and I remember working in a wine shop and in Harlem, and in my community, when you see people who don't look like you that are in the wine shop, even though it looks fancy and beautiful, you don't really feel like it's for you. And I remember a lady coming in the wine shop, older woman of color, and she was trying to say it and struggling. She was speaking to a man, the manager at the time, and he really just treated her, let's just say, not in a good way, you know, just kind of like, oh, she doesn't really know what she wants. She can't even say it, like, you know. And I feel like those type of small memories of me being in different wine shops are the reason why I entered the industry too, because I realized how we're not helping. Like if we're the ones in the industry and we're the ones who know it, aren't you supposed to be helping make the sale, not help, you know, treating someone badly and giving them poor service? I don't care what race they are. I don't care if they can't say German words and grapes. It should be helping to bridge that gap. But it's going to be even harder for wines that are Portuguese and the grapes are Portuguese, like Alfruchedo. No one's going around saying that every day. Gewürztraminer. Everyone sees all those letters and they just get intimidated and they walk away, or in their case, they try to say it and they actually end up having this awkward, uncomfortable situation at a wine shop. And so then I eventually came in to come help the lady, because he kind of like walked away and blew her off, like, oh, she's not going to spend any money. She doesn't even know what she wants, and or can't even say the grape. But I feel like a lot of people, if they knew about grapes like Gewürztraminer and how to pronounce it, unfortunately, we have to keep saying it maybe often in order to get people to feel acceptable, or at least try to say it. But we want them to feel comfortable saying it at least, you know. And so I guess using that grape, because I obviously say it very easily now. But I'm sure that wasn't the case, I don't know, 8 years ago, you know. So I'm picking on this grape, but because it checks two boxes. One, the entry level wine lover who is still drinking maybe sweeter wines, because that's what their palate is used to when it comes to alcoholic beverages, with cocktails, et cetera, here in the US. And then the other part is also the language barrier. So literally the fact that Gewürztraminer looks intimidating. I actually find it very easy to say, but that's after like kind of locking down what I'm supposed to hear. And how do we actually make that bridge? Everyone's not going to learn how to say it, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to love the grape, you know? And so we're not here to judge people on that. And I just want to hear your comments on both or either one of those ideas.
Yeah, so I came across my time in the US, working in the wine shops there, that we had a really lovely German wine selection. And most of the people ended up saying in the end, Gewürz. So, but at least, you know, a Gewürz, I said, okay, that's completely fine if you try to, break your tongue. And but you had to work on, to convince them to try the grape, actually. So, and my approach was usually to come from Moscato. And because that's a little bit more familiar, and so I thought, okay, that's something unique to Germany, or the German-speaking area, Alsace, and so on. It has a kind of similar flavor, and actually people really liked it. But still, it's one of the grapes. I don't know, really, I don't know, never make it really extremely popular. I would say it's perfectly for gastronomic purpose. It's really a Asian food, or like the Alsace cuisine, with quiche and whatever. But somehow, it's still difficult. And what I'm seeing here in Germany is that very often it's made more in a dry style, that you can drink it as an aperitif more, but with lesser sweetness. So I would say, but even within here, it's kind of a niche product, I must say. It's not, it's not competitive to Riesling.
I also feel it's very unpopular, not just Gewürztraminer, but in general, more aromatic varieties, Muscat as well. But I think, I mean, we don't have the language barrier, but what you guys have in terms of a language barrier with sort of just the name or the label for us is sort of the antiquated association that's sort of somewhere in the back of our minds. Gewürztraminer has something sort of a bit dusty, something, I don't know, it's just
the image, yes, old.
Yeah, so we don't have that language barrier, but we do have sort of history, and it's not something that people usually ask for, and when they ask for it, it's usually not the young customers in the shop. It's people that are used to drinking that or have been used to drinking that for a long time.
Autumn, you want to add anything to that before
I mean, no, I think a lot of, just a lot of people in general are intimidated by wine at many levels. And so, with us, one thing that I thought was really important, I in general just have a hard time pronouncing things. I have my whole life. And so like learning into the wine world, it was a lot of like listening to things on repeat on YouTube just to figure out how to present myself in a way that people would take me seriously. So one of the things that we did is we put a lot of information on our list. It doesn't just list, the producer and the vintage and the region. And a friend of mine actually brought this up recently, and I thought this kind of ties into it, is that she works at a cheese shop, and she said that their favorite cheeses weren't selling. And a lot of times it's because people don't want to be that person who doesn't know how to order it or doesn't know how to pronounce it. And so they changed their labels to actually phonetically spell out how to say the cheese, and then the sales of their favorite cheese went up dramatically. So that's sort of one thing that we talked about doing on our list for the varietals that are a little bit harder to pronounce.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting, and I appreciate that. I think that's when I think it's funny when I'm interviewed and people ask me, oh, on your website you have this mission statement that you want to use hospitality and gastronomy to bridge gaps and empower communities. What does that mean? I'm like, it's simply like what Autumn just described. People want to buy it's not because they don't have the money. It's not because they're not interested in cheese or wine. It's because they don't feel empowered because they feel they're beneath it, So if we're not doing steps to bridge a gap, like maybe writing the grape phonetically, just as simple as that, or the cheese spelled out, then it keeps everyone like, oh, okay, that's for the fancy people, right? That's what they, the ones who know how to speak French. German, that's for them. And then it's not for us. And so I applaud anyone who's doing efforts in making that connection, because it's not a matter of they're not being interested or wanting to spend the money. And I think that's what Moscato is easy to say, period. If more Moscato drinkers and lovers had Gewürztraminer, to be honest, I think they wouldn't stand a chance. It would be a strong competition and increase with Gewürztraminer sales. And I think we've all had sweeter Gewürztraminers to be able to say that, they can go head to head, toe to toe, if you want to say, and blind tasting with people who only love sweet wines, who don't know anything about wine, for sure. And probably because of the lychee flavor, et cetera, is going to probably more. And I would have my money on Gewürztraminer. If I didn't tell anybody the grapes blind tasted people, I think the Gewürztraminer will win in the crowd of the Moscato lovers, So that's
maybe just start calling it GT.
GT. Oh, what, Paul? You might be on to something. I'm all about acronyms, okay? So,
but you have GSM, GSM, so you should.
Oh my God! But GSM, as in like the Chinese food? GSM?
No, the Grenache Syrah Mourvedre.
Because now I'm thinking we're talking about Chinese food, and then we're talking about GT, and it's a pairing, right? Yeah. So GT goes with GSM. That's how I went with it. But he's like, no, Grenache Syrah, yes. But no, that's all important as well. I just think that it's cool. So I'll be interested to talk to you further about how do you bridge that gap, et cetera. So these next two questions are more supposed to be rapid fire, but I'm sure it may open up another discussion, and then we'll go right into the blind tasting. So we already know Riesling is king. So which style do you prefer? Fresh, or aged? I'm gonna say aged, I'm gonna leave it there. Age meaning with time. Doesn't mean oak, just mean time. So which one do you prefer? If you had a Riesling, and I'm actually helping you out here, I'm buying whatever price point you want, just let me know which Riesling would it be, if you know I have a favorite producer, or which region, and then let me know if it's going to be more of an aged one or fresh.
Oh,
Should I start? When you start, you start.
yeah, okay.
Well, maybe I should say, I would say fresh or aged. Which style? Of course, you can get it sect and get it sparkling. Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't throw that in there for you, Nicole. And then, and then we already talked about TBA wine. So yes, so which style of Riesling? And if you have a producer, let me hear it.
Oh, actually, I'm a little bit biased because I grew up in the Saar region. So I'm really familiar with this really aged Riesling style. And I don't know, therefore, I'm not really neutral on that. I love this if there's so much petrol and honey and textures coming out of it. And therefore, I don't have a problem with the sweet styles as well, if they're done really well, because I'm a foodie. So I'm always looking on wine with combination of food. So, and but still, my favorite region there is the Saar region, because it gets this kind of steeliness and minerality in it. It's slowly going away because, you know, producers are trying to adapt to the modern styles, and so it can be sometimes a little bit harsh, you know, for modern palates. But yeah, this is really my favorite one. And there you have wineries like Reverchon. It's probably not so familiar, but who else is there?
Peter Lauer.
Yeah, Peter Lauer is okay. He's a little bit very special on Riesling. So,
How much of my money are you spending on this Riesling? Give me an idea. How much is that that one bottle that I'm paying for you?
Oh yeah, you have to go towards 50, 20 euros at least. So that's a minimum starting.
I thought you was gonna scare me with like a 100 euro bottle. I'm okay.
No, it's, you know, even some of those entry levels are already quite nice. If I go to JJ Brum, who's still doing this traditional style, yeah, you with around 20 euros it starts, and yeah, you have to go to the 40, 50s, which is an extremely aged and extended, and yeah, so but I think still value, you know, it's still value for money compared to countries around, so you get really lovely Rieslings.
And when you say age, how long are we saying? Is this a 10-year-old bottle, 5-year-old bottle, 20-year-old bottle that I'm buying for you?
Over 10, 15 years old. So it's in really starts. I had lately a 2008, which was, wow, really lovely.
Okay. All right. Well, Nicole sound like a cheap date. All right. I'll get you that bottle, no problem. Paul, you want to jump in, or Autumn? Anybody, any particular Riesling from which region or style you want to? It's on me. So sky's the limit. Okay. Let me know how much money I'm spending and what I'm buying you.
So I actually agree with Nicole on that, for sort of the off-dry, sweetish kind of styles, because the acidity there is just so searing, and they're amazing, especially like if you had to hit this sort of 10-year window. I think that's when they start to really show. And I don't know, and I mean, really the old school Prädikatsweine, Kabinett, Spätlese, that's sort of, I mean, or even higher, but my personal favorite, I love Kabi. Kabi is sort of our German abbreviation for Kabinett, and sort of just barely off dry, high acid, super refreshing, and they start to gain complexity so much around this 10-year spot. In a dry style, I would go for Großes Gewächs from Rheingau. That's sort of what I really love. So that there you start to spend, I don't know, 40, 50 bucks.
Yes, that's true.
For a bottle, but you get crazy, amazing wines there. My favorite is PJ Kühn from Rheingau. So dry Dosberg is probably his Grand Cru Vineyard Dosberg is my favorite from there.
Right. So like I'm buying 2 bottles for you.
Yeah, I'm tall. I'm 6'11". I need 2 bottles.
6'11", Jesus Christ. You're tall like the bottles, the Rhine bottles, right?
Exactly.
People like German wine,
Maximum.
they can't fit into anything. They're just too tall. Autumn,
Yeah.
how much of my money you spending?
Well, not so much.
Okay, well, you know what? But then you could get a case.
Yeah. I was just actually kind of looking through some pictures that I had just taken recently of bottles that I loved, and it wasn't from my list, so I didn't know everything off the top of my head. But
yeah, no worries.
The bottle that I actually loved the most recently was a Riesling from Alsace, and it's Domaine Christian Biner.
But it's French.
It was in 2016. It is French, but it was like
It was a Riesling.
It was a Riesling, but it's very aromatic and complex, and there was like sort of these honey notes, but it was dry. And so for me right now, that's when we were talking about a producer that we really liked, I immediately was like, let me find the details of that bottle. So
yeah, no, cool. But it's interesting because this is what's happening, right? Here we are, and we need to make sure Americans understand a little bit more about Germans, because I'm sure everything that Nicole and Paul just mentioned, Autumn would love too, but we probably don't have the exposure to it. So the first thing she thinks of is Riesling from Alsace. And I think that this is just true to what is, I think it's real life. Like we can't make it up. As if there is more of these wines that you guys are discussing that probably are on a lot more wine lists and at the tastings that we go to professionally, then we probably wouldn't have the same breadth of what you're saying. Mosel is, the reason that I learned about first, and you understand what highest quality level when it comes to at least the fresh style. And so for me, I always think of Mosel as my, definition of Riesling. Anywhere outside of Mosel can be more terroir driven because of more sun or rain shadows and all these things that we hear about. But when I think of Mosel style, I'm always thinking about how can I actually get my hands on the best Mosel producer possible. So I don't know if you have a producer I should try that's in Mosel, but that's the textbook ones are the ones I always have. I had a Dr. Luzin the other day, for example. So, and I love his wines, but again, textbook, this is what they teach you. This is, if someone said they want a Riesling, this is what I think. I had an off dry style, but I do really like them bone dry as well. I prefer bone dry versions. And I think that that's another thing we should tap into probably next before we go into tasting is the predicate wine. So, oh, look, you laughed. That means I said it good. That's a thumbs up. I said it right perfectly. And so maybe my German is better than my Portuguese, to be honest. And then when you start talking about the levels of ripeness, or just for a second, if people are not familiar, that the German hierarchy, if you want to say, is really not about quality level, but ripeness level. And so therefore the words that Paul mentioned, Cabernet, Spotlys, Auslys, or the one I said or tried to say in the beginning, Trockenberry, Hauslys. Yes, no?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, so this is part of talking about German wine. There's no way, I think you could talk about at least Riesling and get away without mentioning one of these words in the ripeness level. And so and they said, what was it, 1970s is when this, I'm gonna call it TBA, when this ripeness comparison came out. Do you think it helps the industry in any way? Are people really coming in, even within Germany? I know in America, it don't mean anything unless someone knows about German wine, or at least knows enough about wine to ask for a Spotlys versus Cabernet, etc. But is it really helping Germans? Are they actually walking in and say, today I really want a Cabernet, and tomorrow I really want.
I would say it's not really helpful. We have now so many warm years. So almost the total production of Germany is Qualitätswein with Prädikat. There's nothing. And you have Yeah, and you have some years where you have only Auslese level, you know, in some regions. So for me, it doesn't really get this kind of special signature anymore, you know, because the climate has changed. So working in the vineyards have improved tremendously. So you get a better result when you're harvesting the grapes. And yeah, and it's still confusing a little bit, even German consumers, because you have Trockenbeer or Cabinet can be more the drier side, but it can be really on the sweet side, almost the Spätlese level. So you always have to try to know your winery, you know, the producer, what kind of flavor does he like, or what does he want to express with his wine? And for me, it's really time to change that a little bit, because it's not a quality sign anymore for me, and it's more confusing because you have this broad range from dry to sweet within every level. Just what's really clear is for me the Trockenbeeren Auslese or the Beeren Auslese, but all the other ones, it's kind of cross, you know.
Yeah, and I think one big problem is that sort of we're dealing with two parallel sort of categorization systems right now in Germany. So you have the Prädikatsweine,
Yeah.
which is this Qualitätswein, Kabinett, Spätlese,
Yeah.
Auslese, Trockenbeeren, Auslese,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And then you have sort of the VDP classification system, which is based more or less on a Burgundy kind of approach. So just winery level wine, then you have village level, then you have sort of a Premier Cru and then a Grand Cru, which is Erste Lage and Großes Gewächs. And this all exists parallelly to the old sort of Prädikat system. And then people get really confused, and they're trying to push it more towards the side that Prädikat, so Kabinett and Spätlese and stuff like that, is only used for the sweet styles of that level. And for all the dry styles, they use sort of the VDP system. But it's not yet completely established like that. So you can't be sure. And we have all these back vintages where it was different still. So you never really know if you order a Cabinet, if it's going to be a dry or a sweet style.
So should the average consumer look for this, or they should not care? I'm not talking about in Berlin, because I'm assuming all of the wines you have exposure to and sitting in Berlin is different. But the ones that probably make it to the US or France or wherever, I'm sure they probably are definitely the ones that's in the GG. And then within there, they probably do have the full levels that we just mentioned just now. So do you think it means anything if it's a young wine within the last 3 years, vintage? Do you think we should still follow I know you just said it all sound mixed in, but should we look for ones that actually say Spätlese, or does it make a difference because they all probably the same ripeness level?
Yeah, different question actually, because what I notice is maybe that for the US market or for the foreign market, they try to get rid of it a little bit, you know, to make the labels a little bit more easy understandable. Because I think with the Spätlese and Kabinett word, you get more the wine geeks, you know, the wine fashionists who a little bit into the wine scene. And it's more confusing for the average consumer, actually. So I wouldn't recommend really looking for it. Only if you have really good wine shop, you know, with more or less known producers and who can reliable help with you, because you have to know the taste in the bottle. It's probably the same confusing thing if you taste it, it's dry or sweeter, you know, like we have done in Germany. So I would try to ignore it a little bit. But you would rely on someone who can explain it to you. It's still the problem with German wines. You have to explain it.
I mean, all wine is gonna need some hand holding, it sounds like, but and the more I keep talking about German wines this week, the more and reading about it and digging into it as I prepared for this episode and my own wine, which I can't wait to taste with you guys. I think it just was one of those things. Now, I'm going to ask a question more about natural wine, but I'm sure probably Paul and Nicole both have natural wine. So maybe we'll come out of our discussion when we're doing the blind tasting. So let's jump right in. And I'm actually going to start with Nicole. I'll see what
Okay.
you have with white.
Yeah, I'm happily do that. I have chosen one wine from the NAR, which is, maybe I show it here.
No, you're not supposed to show it.
Because
See, we're
I
gonna
like
do
the 2018. It's from the winery Tesch, which is a quite traditional winery, and they're quite known for their Riesling. But I came across the Spitz.
Nicole.
Yes.
You're not supposed to tell people you're great. We're guessing you're great.
Oh, okay. So sorry, I got this wrong. No, it's not a Riesling, so that's for sure.
I know. That's why I stopped you. I said before she goes any further.
Perfect. Sorry. Yeah, so it's a little bit, yeah, it got this kind of onion colored in my glass. I don't know.
Yeah, let's see it again. Yeah, interesting.
And yeah, it offers in the glass some light berries like strawberries or black, how you call it, like black forest berries, kind of a mix. And as well a little bit of tannin structure with it. And still there's a nice mineral freshness, so maybe like blood oranges or whatever. So I taste it. It's really mouth-filling. You get a warmth with it, actually. I must say it has 13% alcohol.
Okay, you can say that. That's okay.
And you get this kind of black currant flavor. So it's really complex wine, actually, with a nice length. Yeah. And a bit of spice with it, like this herbal kind of character coming in the finish. So it's a dry one. It's a dry wine. It's not sweet. Even you get the ripe grapes with it in the mouth.
Remind me if you mentioned the acidity level.
I haven't mentioned it. The acidity is actually a little bit very pleasurable. So it's not in the focus. It's more this a decent fruit forward. So it's not like a fruit bomb. It's really, you get this warmth of the red berries actually with it, and the tannin structure.
Killing me with these red berries. Okay. I actually probably know the wine because of course you told me it, but I'm already confused without looking it up, of course. Paul, you want to take a stab?
I think I heard and saw a little bit too much, so I'll maybe I can take a stab at the like sort of last, but I'm not sure, but I'm a bit too sure.
Okay, I guess the fact that she's saying a lot, like she's talking about tannins and she's talking about berries. So then I'm like, this makes me, I'm having a rendezvous of last week with the Pinot Noir that was served white. And so I'm going a little crazy right now. So I am not saying anything, but I'm having deja vu from that moment. So I hope you're not trying to trick us.
No.
Okay. So first, should I start with asking, is the wine, well, is it a white wine? Is it even a white grape or green grape?
No, it's not a white wine.
Okay, so then that answers that, at least. So I don't know. Autumn, I don't know if you wouldn't take a stab at this at all.
Yeah, I mean, can I see the color again?
If you can see it.
Yeah, it looks almost like,
I actually thought it was golder first,
yeah,
like if it was aged or even sweet, but now it looks actually more clear than like a peach color than.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, peach is a good name for it. It's a really light peach color.
I mean, you could get that color from Grauburgunder as well.
Yes, of course.
But
yeah.
You said, but
and you wouldn't have the red berry. So yes.
I'm just gonna say, I mean, oh, did you say the age?
2018. So
okay, definitely not what I thought. Okay. All right, I'm gonna say spot burgunder just to I'm gonna leave it as that.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
I go with what Paul says.
okay. Yeah.
Trust me. You don't trust me.
I go with what Paul says too.
So it's actually really a Spätburgunder, which is made white. So it's a Blanc de Noir. And the first time I came across this, I was a little bit confused. So I didn't really know where to put it. And,
Paul, I'm not happy for this moment. I don't know what God is trying to, somebody's trying to tell me something. Maybe everyone want to make this Blanc de Noir is popular. There's no way that happened to me twice back to back.
Popular, really. It's getting more, yeah.
So it's sorry, I missed that. So it is a Pinot Noir with a touch of
nothing. It's just Pinot Noir.
It doesn't have any skin contact. It's just like a runoff.
Yeah, hot pressing and to release a little bit of color, and you get a little bit of tannin structure with it, and there's the fruit flavors. But it was a little bit confusing for me too when I had it first. I thought, what is that? Because the color was weird. You have sometimes whites, as you say, with really peachy color. So with and lots of minerality in the red wine. So that's it's something special. But it's getting more popular here. Really.
Thanks, Nicole.
There's an old German name for that style. It's called Weissherbst.
Yes.
But it literally translated would be white autumn. But
I like that. Wait, white autumn?
Yeah.
Yes.
But people.
Autumn, you gotta tell me the German. What's the German name again?
Weissherbst.
Weiss. So it's basically a red grape that has a little. All right. Okay. I like this. You gotta tell me I gotta know how to Google it. So you gotta spell it out for me later. All right, go ahead, Paul. Do you want to go ahead, take your wine?
Sure. So it looks white, but can you be sure?
Oh God, not another one.
Another Blanc de Noir.
Who knows? No, but it's fairly sort of medium lemon colored. It's not entirely clear, so there's like a tiny bit of turbidity in it. Smells fresh, clean, sort of medium intensity. There is a bit of new oak on the wine. The rest is more on a kind of stony, salty, briny, lemon pith kind of side. Not super pronounced, so it's not stone fruity, not very floral. It's more on the sort of mineral kind of spectrum. It's dry, acidity is high, sort of medium plus body, medium alcohol, really dense, sort of a bit of bitterness there. There's a bit of a leesy character that wasn't on the nose, so more kind of yogurty. It's really, really, really good. I know it touches every part of your mouth a little bit, and a really long finish. Still not super pronounced, but just the texture of it is really, really cool. Yeah.
Ooh. What vintage is it? And if you didn't say already, can you just repeat the region?
The region is Rheinhessen. I need to check the vintage. It's 18, I think. Still, yeah, 18.
18.
And to make it a little bit easier, it's not Riesling.
I thought, I don't know if I see.
I didn't think you said it wasn't pronounced, so you already had me. That wasn't Riesling at all. So I was looking at
No. Is it a little bit with green tinges in the glass? So it's some greenness in there?
Yeah, a little bit.
So because it sounds a little bit neutral in a way. So I'm more on this leesy style. So can I guess the grape now before
Sure.
Is it a Silvaner?
Yay!
Ooh.
Because yeah, okay.
So what gave it away? What was Savannah for you?
Silvaner doesn't have this pronounced acidity, and it has sometimes this little bit green structure to it, and if it's isn't made fruit forward, kind of a very reduced style, and then it's very prone to lees aging, or if you leave it on the lees, that it gets a complexity. So I thought because the acidity is probably not so high, and
the acidity, for like that being said, that Silvaner has usually a bit less acidity than Riesling.
Yes.
This has, for a Silvaner, a really high acidity.
High, okay. Good.
It's funny because I usually think of Silvaner as a good substitute or to get beer drinkers into wine. And I'm like, if you're a beer drinker, what grape? I don't really know. I want to drink wine with my wife and all this other stuff. And if I have one, I'm usually like, you know what? You probably can get away with this one. Especially, there's probably more options in like a natural wine bar or a store that focuses on natural wine. But if not, and the store does have at least a salt line, I'm like, okay, here, bring this for the beer guy. It's gonna feel more like a wheat, like a classic wheat, but maybe in our case, and I want to know why, because it always reminds me of like a Hoegaarden. Have you heard of Hoegaarden beer?
No.
It's American, but obviously with a German, not so German name, but you actually put a lemon in it. It basically feels very citrus forward, and very that light wheat beer style. But and so I try to use Silvaner as the closest one if somebody is into beers, to kind of connect them through that beer, someone who like that style of beer would like this that grape. So thank you for not having a Riesling.
Yeah, I think Silvaner is a much underrated variety.
Yes.
It can make amazing wines, and I think it's something that Germany should be known for a little bit more. I think it's cool because it's somewhere stylistically between Riesling and sort of our Pinot varieties. I love the producer. So this is one of my favorite producers right now. It's Carsten Saalwester.
Oh. Yeah.
And this is actually sort of his top wine. So it's a single vineyard, 50-year-old vines, no filtration, no fining, just one barrel made of this. So it's just about 500 bottles. And the bottle costs around 40 euros, 40 something retail.
I see.
We'll have some soon. Okay, Autumn, you can go or I can go. It's up to you.
I'll go.
Okay.
Mine's gonna be easy. So here we go. There's some good light in here.
Red, clear.
Yes, it's super light. Would be lovely with a little chill on it. There's lots of sort of tart currants and a little bit of there's a little bit of spice on the nose. There's no oak. There's like a really good acidity and soft tannins, a little bit of maybe pink flowers and cherries. So it's 2017.
What region is it from?
I'm sorry?
The region?
It is, why do I not have it right in front of me? I'm gonna probably pronounce it incorrectly. Swabia?
Oh, Schwaben.
Is that right? Is it Sebia or Sabia? Swabia?
You want to spell it for them?
SWABIA. The
It's
sub-region is Baden.
Oh,
It's
Baden.
the-
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the problem is it's the English name of the region. In German, it's called Schwaben. And I think in English it's Swabia, but
Yeah, which is like,
Okay, but it's in Baden, the Baden region.
Yeah.
yes, it is.
I'm like, we can say that one. we can go. So Baden is good. Okay.
Hmm. And you said it's a little bit more fresher stylistic. So
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and say that it's Pinot. You said it's. I mean, the color is fairly light. You have high acidity. You have low tannin. You have sort of slight florals and sort of a cherry touch. So it makes sense that it's Pinot. No idea what the producer could be in Baden, though.
Yeah, I agree. So it sounds like a more fresh style Pinot Noir, not the ones with the barrique with it.
Yeah, should I show you guys the bottle?
Yeah, right?
It is a Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
I have sort of entry-level German wine knowledge, so Pinot Noir, Rieslings are the main things I know.
Trust me, if you know anything about Pinot Noir from Germany, that's actually considered. Most people don't even know you can get Pinot Noir from Germany. So it's,
unfortunately, my wine label's got a little wine on it, but it's Holger Koch.
Ooh,
Can you
we
see
actually
it?
sell that wine.
Yeah.
oh, cool.
It's super, super delicious. It's very easy drinking. It's not super serious, so you're not going to have to like think a lot about enjoying it. It's going to be really easy to just enjoy kind of year round, but specifically in spring or summer. So
It's so cool that you have that there.
yeah,
I love that wine.
yeah, it's delicious. So that I just we were talking about Riesling earlier, and I said it. A French Riesling, but there is one Riesling that we do carry on our list, and it's one of our only off-dry bottles, and I'm gonna probably pronounce this incorrectly as well, but it's Weinhop Sankt Anna. Do you guys know that? It's Moselle. It's
Good, type it here in the chat, and they can read it.
okay. It's SANKT Anna. Anyway, it's delicious. If you're looking for something a little off dry.
Lovely.
I'm gonna, well, at least I'm near you, closer, so I can be able to come. Mine's is red as well. Let me move out. Actually, it looks a little dark on. Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can have a. There we go. That's better. You see the color now? That's clearer. There is some haziness to it. I can say the rim is clear. The colors has this nice garnet color, but still that clarity and haziness makes it even more interesting. On the nose, I first get raspberries, then it goes into like a more strawberry, but more like wild berries. Like if you're in a field of strawberries, not so much like freshly packaged at your, market. Because it has that nice mixture of funk and earthiness connected to it too. So it's like more of a field of strawberries than the ones properly washed, in your house. I think there's like a slight green note on the end that comes off like thyme that I think is cool as well, like a herbal note. And it still has this dusty note that's more prominent actually on the aroma. On the palate, still the earthiness takes over. The raspberry or fruit comes in on a mid palate. The finish, as I'm still speaking, is still trickling down. So I would say has quite a mid finish or even long, because I still feel it but it's still more strawberry, raspberries on the palate on the finish of it versus on the attack. The attack is straight funk, straight earth, and even like a, how you say, planted soil from it's from a plant as well. Yeah, it is medium in acidity, or medium plus, I should say. Wine is obviously light body. And let me see the alcohol. I think it's 13. It's 12.5. The region is Rhine-Hessen, I believe. Yep, Rhine-Hessen. Any other comments? The tannins is actually medium as well. Nothing too over-pronounced. Yeah, I would say the acidity is probably more than the tannins, for sure.
I mean, they do make a bit of Dornfelder in Rheinhessen as well.
I was thinking so too.
But I'm still
The wine is dry.
I was thinking so too. And you know, but you don't. I never came across a Dornfelder with earthiness. So I would guess it's a Spätburgunder too.
Okay,
Yeah.
it is. I'm not gonna. It was no way I would think that 3 people would have a Spätburgunder, which is Spätburgunder. Now I have you here, so I can say it correctly too. So mine is from Schmidt.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And they are actually a Demeter certified biodynamic wine. So that haziness, which was interesting because I think when I purchased it, I just knew I wanted a red from Germany because I just knew everybody was going to have whites. And so when it happened, it was interesting because I was like, you know what, since everyone's going to probably bring different levels of Rieslings and maybe even some Pinot Gris, etc., or maybe there may be a splash of Gewürztraminer if I'm lucky. That's somebody will have. I'm going to come with the red. No way I thought someone was going to have a Blanc de Noir. No one think. So this has been interesting as well because as I've been talking about the wines with other people as well this week about, oh, I just got a Pinot Noir from Germany and it's been great. I've been tasting it, getting ready for Saturday. And they all kept saying, yeah, I've never had a Pinot Noir from, I've literally been taking count. Like I've been in virtual tastings and talking to folks in the industry and, or I should say customers. And they're like, I couldn't even find one. And like, I'm like, let me know if you even see this near you. And they're like, no, I didn't see this at all. Like they ended up having to buy a French one because they could not find, they couldn't find a German one in their state, etc. So, or even in their country. So I think that was interesting to actually hear, well, you two are in Germany, so of course you will have more exposure to it. And of course with, you know, Autumn owning her wine bar, of course she knows what her list has or not. So I didn't know her list to be able to say if she would bring a red, but it was interesting to hear that she was going to bring one too. So I was like, oh, this will be a good conversation to even actually talk about. In this case, we're going to just add you, Nicole, because I know it's kind of tricky. You have a red, but it's a what, like, but looks white. You know, so is it rosé? I don't know. Everybody's confused. But but in this case, the 3 of us having red grapes and Paul having a white grape, that probably more people would know less of. Would probably make this video even more interesting because we're not just sitting here talking about Rieslings. And so, and I think that's what people think of because it's the king grape of Germany. And so I feel like this has been an interesting moment and not even what I expected, but I hope people actually pick up something from this that they thought was new for them, that I hope that they buy German wines or come to Berlin. I didn't even talk about my times, you know, in Berlin. I have a friend that lived there. So I actually visited Berlin recently. And so I had a great time trying out the different natural wines. And so I do want to end kind of on that note, just kind of talking about the natural wine movement in itself as it relates to Berlin and how is that helping or even connecting with people like Autumn in her wine bar, probably in Brooklyn, which everybody know Brooklyn as this, or New York City as a natural, you know, wine destination as well. So just to like end on that note as we talk about that. And if Nicole, I'm sure you've had natural wines as well from Germany, but or at least seen the scene as it's evolved. If there's anything you want to kind of just add about that right now, we'll close out with that as commentary.
No, I think it's yeah. You said you made a nice roundup to that. I think it's yeah, it's interesting to see that how the combination really goes. You know, with Berlin being kind of a forerunner for natural wine, really. You know, because of the history of the city being very progressive, and it's kind of the similar picture I have from New York. You know, it's kind of wow, okay, where the good food was coming from first, you know, with the restaurant, with the wine bars popping up and everything. That's yeah, there's more connection than we all think.
Sure, especially between Brooklyn and Berlin. I think it's crazy. I was in I don't know what neighborhood I was in actually, but it just felt like I could have been standing in Brooklyn at that same moment, and in that same wine bar felt like it could have been somewhere that someone like, oh, you got to come. No one knows about this, like the secret place,
Yeah.
that's happening in Brooklyn. So
Yeah.
vibe that I loved about being in Berlin. But Paul, if you want to add anything to that, especially as an importer, as it relates to the sales, are they increasing for natural wines in Berlin compared to, I don't know how long you've been in the industry, but at first, when you first started or when you started your wine journey?
Well, it's been increasing for the last 10 plus years. The shop turned natural around 2006, and back then, I mean, I wasn't working in the shop then, but my boss told me that sort of half of the bottles that were natural were being sent back or brought back because people didn't understand and they didn't know the style of wine then, and they didn't have an idea about it, so they were just confused. But right now, I mean, a lot of interesting restaurants in the city have picked it up sort of as one of the tools they can use. And it's made it it's brought it a bit more to the center of sort of the Berlin food scene, although I think it's still very much niche in Germany in general. But the cool thing I think about natural wine is that it's, I mean, still a subculture in a way, and like all those subcultures that are still, I mean, still fairly new, it's still fairly small, though it's growing. But I don't know, I think if anybody's into a really niche kind of music style, then you tend to know the people across the globe that love this kind of music. And I think it's still the same with natural wine. So if you're in this smaller niche of people that love these wines, and you talk about the same wineries, you follow the same wineries on social media and stuff like that, you follow each other, I don't know, be it Four Horsemen or whatever, it's sort of, you know the people that work in the industry, and it's sort of, yeah, it's still kind of a group that doesn't feel as national, because you just need to look beyond your own borders to have the kind of sort of connections that you need or want. I love it.
Autumn?
Yeah, I mean, when I originally started tasting for the wine bar, I didn't want to be a natural wine bar per se, because I felt like the term was kind of being, taked on everything, and there wasn't really any definition. So it didn't really, I just said, I want to try a bunch of different wines. And as we were tasting to build our list, I just realized that the wine that I found interesting was usually produced naturally. And so we have a lot of wines that, don't have a very traditional flavor profile, but then we have something like this Pinot Noir, which I would say does have a very traditional flavor profile, and it's just made naturally. So that's sort of how I narrowed down the list, was making sure I have one of each thing that somebody can come in and say, I drink traditional wine and I want a really nice Pinot Noir, but I can have somebody else come in and say, I want something really funky that I've never tasted before. So I do think that it's sort of like a small knit group of people, and it actually hasn't been so easy to kind of get into that group, which is okay to work for it. But I actually have a question for you guys. Is German wines traditionally produced naturally, or is there a large commercial wine production?
I would say there's a large commercial wine production, definitely. because you have to be in mind that if we buy our wines in the grocery shops or discounter, that was the main stake is actually, it doesn't matter if sparkling wine or if then people don't pay much. So, those wines are really produced on a large scale, on the flatter land, wherever. Yes, that's unfortunately true.
The average amount that German people spend on a bottle of wine is under €3.
Yes.
So necessarily that's commercial wine.
That's it all. Yeah, says it
Probably
all.
the same for Portugal. I just I can't even consider those wines because it's probably some really large corporation who is making bulk wine with a lot of chemicals, et cetera. I visited those wineries. It's just more about, what can I say? Portugal is funny because Germany, as far as Europe, is one of the lowest consumers of wine-making countries that consume wine. And Portugal, even it's a tiny country, is one of the highest. It is the #1 country of wine consumption in the world, actually, per capita. So it's funny to even think about it in that way. And that's why I asked the questions in the beginning too, because I'm like, well, how do you even forget trying to get Americans to drink German wine? How do you get Germans to drink German wine? And it seemed like there is a lack of that. And it seemed like maybe, which we all sound like we're talking about now, natural wine may be a way to get more Germans to kind of make that connection into the industry. You've never had Hoegaarden, but I'm sure you've had like citrusy wheat beers that, the Sylvaner, like you just mentioned, maybe that's a nice ease to someone who like only loves, and I don't know if you agree, but anyone who loves just beer, and to having something that's more along that line for them. And even with sparkling, at the restaurant I worked at in Portugal, I actually had a sect on the list. And so when people come in, we would normally ask them, would they like to have a sparkling? And depending on a person's budget, some of them may come in because they're in Portugal and they're foreigners. They may say, I definitely want Portuguese sparkling. But if we do have to hand hold it, because of course people are going to definitely ask for Portuguese if they're not getting actual champagne. So when you have a sect on the list, you really got to like push it. You got to be like, hey, and I would challenge my colleague. He said, today I'm going to sell sect to everybody. I'm like, yeah, good luck, But it used to be like a thing, like we're on the floor. We're really trying to introduce new wines to people. Our job is to sell all our wine, no matter what country it comes from, right? So just because you're in Portugal, that doesn't help us. We just want to sell the wine. So we have this German wine we have on the list and we want people to know about it. So we'll bring the sparkling like, hey, let me introduce you to something new, get them to, fall in love with the foreignness of it when it comes to, or exotic, idea, because as you can imagine, a Portuguese consumer has access to Portuguese wine all the time. So they don't want to come into a restaurant and ask for Portuguese wine. So our easiest clientele is actually sell a German wine to a Portuguese consumer. And so that was easier to be able to introduce Portuguese to German sparkling. And so once you kind of get into that mindset of like, yes, they're coming for a new experience. The restaurant I worked at actually is with a Bosnian chef. So they know they're not going to get just traditional Portuguese food here. So it was a way to kind of bring more flavors and introduce countries even like Germany on the sparkling side to consumers. So, I always say the real brunt of the work is for us, the ones that's on the floor, the ones that's selling the wines in the store, because if we don't make the connection, then that producer goes nowhere. He's only important, or that style of wine, people don't know what the hell sect is. It only stays in Germany, right? And so we are the ones who have to be introduced to it. And then the more things that are translated, unfortunately or fortunately for us, to make us feel easy to connect to it, then we can get others into it. Or the more that people take these tours, as far as wine producers traveling to other countries, I know it's expensive, but they have to trust somebody. They either send the wine out to us so we can try it through the importer or some way. But I hope anybody who's watching this will know that there is an interest in it. It just starts with education, and that's for all wine. But Germany sounds like it's in the same bucket. It just needs a little extra help, So thank you all for who've been watching with us live. Sorry, the chat cut off when I got removed from the group and joined back in. But thank you for if you've been watching the whole time, and this will continue to live here. If you're interested in the wines that everyone had today, even all of the spot burgunders, AKA Pinot Noir, then they will also be on the website, chamccoy.com/the Cha List. And thank you guys for joining me from Germany and Brooklyn. So cheers to you.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And then tell
Cheers.
me, oh, Prost, right? Prost.
Prost.
Prost, see, boom. I got it. I can say cheers in every language.
Oder zum Wohl. Zum Wohl.
Zum Wohl.
Zum Wohl? I don't know that one.
Yes, zum
Zum
Wohl.
Wohl. Okay, zum Wohl.
Okay.
Cheers.